This NFL Week 16 injury news and updates edition of the Propcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code MACHINE to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Rebet, a new social sportsbook available in 45 states. Download Rebet in your app store and use promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit match up to $100. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start Crush, the leader in data-driven picks and props. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. And we're also brought to you by the SGPN College Football Playoff Challenge. Free to enter and a $1,000 grand prize. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/CFB to enter today.
As he throws deep downfield, it's going to be caught by Richard.
Welcome everyone to the Propcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. NFL Week 16 tips off on Thursday night. Here we are for another episode of all the injury news transpiring across the league. I know we got some big ones to get to this week at least. We'll get into all of the games that have injury implications for the Week 16 schedule. But joining me here, of course, he's the man of the show. He's the expert of the show. He's the man I bring out my pen and paper to write down all the notes and news surrounding the injury concerns. It's Sebastian Fearon. Sebastian, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Look, another week of the NFL. We're getting closer and closer to where it really starts to matter, where it's, playoff time. All these games are kind of coming into de facto playoff games, whether for seeding or actually to get in. So it's a very cool time. You got college football playoffs starting. So good time for football, matching up with the holidays well.
Yeah, 100%. Again, still meaningful football games at least, but you and I were just briefly talking offline that we're going to get some of these games that don't have a whole heck of a lot to do with anything as far as postseason goes. Maybe quote unquote tank jobs for some of these teams that are facing off against each other.
Tank-a-thon, man. It's more important to some than others.
Yeah, 100%. So we'll get into all that as we watch here as the season winds down here, but let's get into it. I know we have, of course, we're way past the bye weeks now, so all teams are in action now. We have a little bit of a staggered schedule heading down the end of the season here. So we got games on Thursday, Saturdays, the next week, obviously with Christmas week, with Christmas Day games and things like that. So again, a good reminder to really check all of the scheduling and how everything is going to go. But we're going to do our best to keep it consistent here for the rest of the season and into the postseason as well. Sebastian, before we do dive into it here, let me just make sure to remind everybody to check out SGPN's first annual College Football Playoff Challenge. Pick sides and totals for every game with the chance to win a $1,000 grand prize. It's free to enter. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/CFB. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/CFB. All right, let's kick it off here. Thursday night football with a huge AFC West matchup between the Denver Broncos and the LA Chargers. Chargers are laying 2.5 points in this game right now, with a total of 42. Both these teams are in now the wild card picture in the AFC. Of course, the Kansas City Chiefs running away with the AFC West division there, but a huge game between the Broncos and the Chargers here. Sebastian, what are we looking at for injuries in this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, the Broncos just came off of a de facto playoff game when they played the Colts. That was huge for that wild card race. And, the Chargers looks like really they only need to win one to get in, but they got to win one here because they've been on a little bit of a slide.
Yeah.
So really big game, divisional matchup, obviously. And we've got some significant injuries on both sides. Actually just 2 minutes ago, the Chargers injury report dropped for today, which is nice to have. Although it looks very similar to what we saw yesterday. Essentially, there's some guys not practicing who are likely going to be out. Those guys are cornerback Cam Hart. I'd say he's definitely going to be out, dealing with a concussion on a short week. Very unlikely he's going to be able to play. He's one of those rookie cornerbacks that's been playing really well for them, so that's a big loss. Another loss looks like it's going to be Elijah Molden. He's dealing with a knee injury. He stepped in for Alohi Gilman, who went on the IR. So that could be two safeties out. So two starters and really, a couple that are still on IR for that Chargers secondary. So that is definitely something to keep an eye on. Also starting left guard, Zion Johnson has they mistakenly labeled Quentin Johnston as not practicing with an ankle injury. It was always Zion Johnson. If you watch the game, he went down in that game. He has not practiced 2 days in a row, so it looked like we may get a backup offensive lineman there. Will Dissly still not practicing since his shoulder injury. Now, Stone Smart is the guy we talked about last week who kind of came through for us a little bit. Also, Hayden Hurst just so he designated to return, so not activated from IR yet, but he did pick up a full practice today. So, with that hip injury, that could be promising. Maybe looks like no with Will Dissly, but maybe Hurst, especially for the running game there as a blocker to help out with Stone Smart. And then as far as guys who look like they are going to play, we've got obviously Justin Herbert, full practice, limited again today, but he's going to be okay with his ankle injury. You've got cornerback Christian Filton, opposite side Cam Hart. He's going to full practice today. And then Denzel Perryman's limited practice. Looks like he is trending towards playing as well. So a couple key guys out for the Chargers. And then we go to the Broncos side. We only have their Monday injury report right now. I just double checked. I did not see them put anything out yet. I'm sure it'll come out in an hour or so. But they had 3 guys of significance not practice. Riley Moss is the biggest one. There is a massive, massive drop-off between Riley Moss and Levi Wallace. We all saw it on the national scene with Jameis Winston and that Cleveland Browns team. This was a pass defense that was considered elite by many, and they got exposed. I mean, Jerry Jeudy, 200 yards. I mean, Elijah Moore went off. Like, guys that aren't exactly the most alpha of wide receivers. So, yeah, that is concerning. He did not practice yesterday. If he does not practice again today, I would say, he's very much doubtful. Jaleel McLaughlin dealing with a quad injury. Now, his injury is a little bit easier to deal with. He's still got Audric Estime and Javonte Williams. And then defensive tackle John Franklin Myers dealing with a foot injury. Again, I don't know the status of these guys today. So, for them to not practice the first day of the week and then practice is not unheard of. So one of these guys may have been upgraded. We'll have to see. The really best news is that cornerback Patrick Surtain picked up a mild low ankle sprain. He did fully practice on Monday, so he should be good to go, which is obviously huge to shut down likely Lad McConkey there. Obviously getting that other team's wide receiver 1. So some injuries here that could definitely play a role. I think, if you look at a guy like Quentin Johnston, who is not on the injury report, going up against that cornerback 2 and Levi Wallace. I mean, he leads the team with 8 receiving touchdowns. I mean, he's one of the tops in the league. He's slowly. I think that without Riley Moss, this defense is a lot more susceptible. I think the Chargers playing at home definitely need to light a fire under themselves and figure out a way to get there. So he's one guy. And then on the bring back, I think Cortland Sutton. I mean, we saw Mike Evans have a bit of a day against this Chargers defense. They've got some issues in the back end. They struggle with alpha wide receivers. And, I think Cortland Sutton is a guy who is a number 1 wide receiver. I think he's got a decent matchup here. So those are the 2 guys I've got my eye on. What about you?
Yeah, I think this is probably a big game here, or needs to be a big game for Justin Herbert. I already played his over 31.5 pass attempts in this game. Historically, if you're taking a look at Justin Herbert against the Broncos, he's done really well yardage-wise as well. But I went back and looked at what quarterbacks have done against the Denver Broncos. And I believe since week 2, 10 of the 12 quarterbacks that they have faced have gone up and have gone over, or I should say have thrown 32 or more times against the Denver Broncos. So especially with all the injuries that they are dealing with in the backfield there, I mean, how much are you going to get out of Gus Edwards and those guys back there? No disrespect to them, but it's different when you do have J.K. Dobbins back there. So I do like Justin Herbert in either pass attempts to go over in this game or even his yardage to go over as well. And like I mentioned, historically, he's done really, really well against the Broncos. You mentioned the injury or the advantage here, I should say, for Cortland Sutton. I really do like that angle. He's been on fire ever since he got shut out in that game against the Saints. I think this was, 4 or 5 weeks ago, on Thursday Night Football. But seems like him and Bo Nix are really trying to find that groove with each other as the season progresses here. So this should be a really fun matchup here for the AFC West division. Got anything else for Thursday Night Football?
I will just say, like, literally just now, the Broncos dropped there. So
there we go. You guys think we throw this
Riley Moss?
Throw this shit together? No, it's planned, guys.
Yeah, upgrade to Riley Moss's status. He did have a limited practice today. I mean, I think that's huge. Just for he's so much better than Levi Wallace. So no guarantees there, right? He's still dealing with an injury on a short week, so we'll have to see. But one to watch, a little more optimism, definitely a chance for Riley Moss to return, which would be a big boost for them. Also, Jaleel McLaughlin did get upgraded to a limited. Again, that injury, how significant is it? They really kind of run running back committee. But Riley Moss is the one to watch. He's definitely got a chance with this limited practice. So, questionable right now. If he trends in that right direction, it's going to make that Chargers pass offense have to work a little bit harder.
All right, let's keep it moving here. We'll get to the Sunday schedule here. We'll start it off here with, let's go with the Saturday games, I should say. See, that's why I say to check the schedule. Saturday, the big storyline, of course, in this game, the Houston Texans, they are going to be taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. And if the line is any indication on what has transpired in this game, I'll go in and say this. The Texans, I believe, opened up as a 2.5-point favorite. They were a 2.5-point favorite up until this afternoon, till we got a report of one Mr. Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to leave the details to Sebastian there, but the Chiefs are now a 3-point favorite in this game with a total of 41.5 here. Sebastian, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah. So, this is one of those situations where we talk about getting the information out as early as possible. Right, is kind of the key. And we talked about this yesterday, and I've been tweeting about this since really Sunday night when the injury happened. I always thought there was a chance Patrick Mahomes was going to play just because he's done this before.
Yeah.
It's a high ankle sprain. Now, a high ankle sprain is more damaging than a low ankle sprain that we'll talk about later with a guy like TJ Watt. It's an injury to the ligaments between your fibula and your tibula. Syndesmosis there, it requires more damage to happen, which means it requires more recovery time, right? So it's typically 4 to 6 weeks. Most guys, I would immediately say, like, there's really no chance, or it's going to be awful. Definitely this guy's either going to play and get hurt, or he's going to look like a mess and not play. But Patrick Mahomes just did this 2 years ago in the playoffs. Once it was confirmed it was mild, I gave out yesterday Kansas City money line just as home dogs because I thought there was a good chance he's going to play. So, just to say, obviously, we talked about on our show yesterday, but also on the Twitter machine. I feel pretty nice having that in my pocket. Doesn't mean that CLV does not cash tickets. So, but that is one that was kind of like immediately, if it's another guy, Patrick Mahomes, once there was no crutches, no boot or anything like that, we've just seen it before from him. Now what I will say is he was listed as a full practice.
Yeah.
They ran like kind of almost a walkthrough, a little bit higher than a walkthrough, not a real practice. So no, he did not fully practice on that ankle today, right? He's definitely, I expect him to be limited. This is not a guarantee that he does play. He's not been ruled in, right? But there's obviously in the right direction. So I expect him to be limited mobility. And yes, he will be at an elevated re-injury risk, but he's just a crafty guy and he did it in the playoffs. And, I think the concern here is that left tackle DJ Humphries, who they brought in, still not practicing with his hamstring injury. We saw Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter come back, and they really made Tua's life a nightmare.
Yeah.
That is the concern is, he's going to be limited on his mobility. So despite having that Kansas City money line in my pocket, I will be on Houston sacks. This Kansas City offensive line has been a liability, whether healthy or not, all season. So I do like some Houston sack opportunities there. Also, for the Chiefs, we have Hollywood Brown full practice coming off of his SC joint surgery there. So it looks like he's got a real chance to play. But Jamari Connor, one of the defensive backs there in concussion protocol, did not practice today. So, we'll see. Most guys don't practice the first practice off of a concussion. He does have one less day, so his chances are a bit less likely to go ahead and clear. On the Houston side, really just a couple minor injuries here. You've got Kenyon Green, who did not get activated last week. He had a full practice today, so one would assume, he may be activated, but you never know with those guys coming off IR. And then John Mechie, he did not practice today with a shoulder injury. It's the first practice of the week, so I don't like to read too far into them as far as some of these injuries. So we'll see how Mechie goes. But yeah, optimism for Mahomes and Hollywood Brown. We'll have to wait and see on some of these other guys.
Yeah, I would think so too with Mechie. Again, it is a short week. We're playing on Saturday. Here are the Texans against the Chiefs here. My expectation was that Mahomes would still end up playing because, like you mentioned, Sebastian, that we've seen this before from him. Maybe the bookmakers thought something different, obviously, because they opened the line 2.5 in favor of the Texans. Maybe looking at, you mentioned the sack prop for the Texans side. I do like that as well. Maybe under rushing yards would be a look here for Patrick Mahomes as well. Maybe not putting too much pressure on the ankle, or because I think they turn around and play on Christmas Day as well. So
yeah, 3 games, 11 days.
Yeah, Texans are in that category there as well. They play the Ravens on that first game on Christmas Day, I believe, as well. So yeah, big week for both teams here. So definitely keep your eyes and ears open for the Mahomes situation, I should say, if he's going to be able to go or not. I think all indications are that, as Sebastian's expecting, I'm expecting as well, that he does end up playing in this game for the Kansas City Chiefs. Anything else for Texans Chiefs?
No, I mean, I think they'll have to lean on that run game. It's going to be very interesting to see where things all get posted and things like that. But the prop market for this one, I'm sure it's going to be taking it up to the wire, and it's going to be a little crazy. So I do expect him to play at this point and have limited mobility there. So we'll see. I like the under rushing angle. We'll just have to see where that gets posted at.
All right. Before we continue the conversation here for the NFL Week 16 injury news and updates, let me tell everyone about our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Pick'em has one of the biggest menus for all sports. You can go up to 1,000x with Underdog streaks. Underdog is always making it easier to win with profit boosts and gimme pick'ems. NFL, college football, college basketball, MMA, NBA, NASCAR, and much more. And you can now use specials and boosts on all flex entries. So sign up with promo code MACHINE to claim your special pick in a first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Make sure you use our promo code MACHINE. And we're also brought to you by Rebet. Rebet is a new social sportsbook available in 45 states. There are plenty of betting opportunities that are available on Rebet. It's easy to use and great for people in states where traditional sportsbooks may not be available and are restricted. Download Rebet in the App Store and use the promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit match up to $100. Again, that's Rebet. Make sure you use that promo code SGPN. All righty, let's keep it rolling here. Next game that we want to get to here is going to be... let me get back to my odd screen here quickly. The second game on Saturday, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they are in Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Ravens are laying 6 points in this game with a total of 44.5 here. Sebastian, what are we looking at for this AFC North matchup? Should be a big one.
Yeah, a lot of points there for an AFC North matchup. I was definitely surprised to see that large of a number. But okay, so for the biggest one for the Pittsburgh Steelers is on the defensive side, TJ Watt, obviously a massive injury. Really best case scenario for based on how he went down and how he looked on the field late in that Eagles game. I really thought something was maybe wrong there. But it looks like he just rolled his ankle a bit. X-rays were negative, walking around, not really with a limp. Just Tomlin was pretty optimistic early in the week. Officially labeled as a did not practice today. More of an estimation. But, I mean, low ankle sprains, they're much easier to deal with. Typically a 1 to 2 week injury, if mild, like this one sounds like it is. I do expect him to play. I think that they're – oh, wow. Michael Penix named starting quarterback for the Falcons.
There we go.
Wow. Okay. I was wondering, my phone's going crazy. Wow. Okay. But yeah, so TJ Watt looks like he's got a good chance that he's going to be able to play there. George Pickens is another big name here. He started to get back onto the field and do some agility stuff, some jogging. Really with the hamstring, you can get back to that stuff, but you got to be able to sprint. Sprinting is kind of the last step. So it's early. We'll see. I don't want to get too optimistic on Pickens because hamstring's a much harder injury to come back from than a low ankle sprain. You got to worry about re-injury risk there. So I'm not quite sold on Pickens. Starting cornerback Dante Jackson went out again. He's been out in the past 2 games, kind of played and then left the game. He's dealing with a bit of a pinched nerve in his low back, which is not the easiest thing to deal with. You got some muscle spasms are typically a little bit easier. This is a bit more of a serious injury, so we'll see. I'm a bit pessimistic on Dante Jackson, And then Deshaun Elliott still not practicing with his hamstring. So Steelers definitely could be down a couple guys, but I do expect Watt to return. It looks like Larry Ogunjobi is going to be back and potentially George Pickens. So we'll see there. On the Baltimore side, a bit healthier, but you got Nelson Aguilar, who's made some plays for them this year. Definitely not, a huge part of this offense, but concussion, short a week. So he's kind of, I would say, doubtful at this point. You got Deontay Johnson throwing whatever tantrum, he's got going on over there. Safety of Darius Williams is a guy who has been really big for them of late. They've kind of helped to turn that really bad pass defense around. So, he's dealing with ankle injury. He's limited practice, which is a good sign for his practice. And then cornerback Jalen Armour Davis not practicing with the hamstring injury, which was always tough to play the following week. So secondary is a little bit beat up, wide receiver room, but I think the Steelers' injuries are a little bit more impactful. So we'll have to see there. But it should be a nice, tight AFC North game. I'll probably be playing some unders here because it's usually a lot, despite how good these offenses can look. They always play each other really tight, especially Lamar rushing. I know he just went off on Lamar rushing, but the Steelers have been one of the best teams really all year, keeping the quarterback contained. So I always like to play Lamar under rushing here.
Yeah, the one I was looking at was going to be if George Pickens does end up playing in this game or not for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I feel like their offense has fallen off a little bit without him in the 2 games. I know they've played some pretty good defenses in that span, but I do think that without Pickens and having that down the field threat, it's kind of set the offense back a little bit for the Steelers. And like you mentioned, the TJ Watt one, I do expect him to be out there as well for the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, let's keep it moving here. Let's get over to the Sunday slate. We'll start here with the Philadelphia Eagles. They are going to be taking on the Commanders in this game, a NFC East battle. Commanders catching 3.5 points in this game with a total of 45.5 in this game here. Sebastian, what are we looking at for Eagles and Commanders?
Yeah, there's really, one confirmed big one and then another one that I just want to keep my eye on here. You got Zach Ertz dealing with a concussion. I know they brought in a tight end off the practice squad for this team there. So we'll see. It's not a short week, so thankfully we're to Sunday's game, so he doesn't have to worry about anything like that. So we'll see where Zach Ertz is. He's kind of going to be questionable. And then AJ Brown is just one I want to mention. Dealing with, he said that he was fine and, it wasn't a noticeable limp. I get it, but adrenaline is a hell of a drug. And he definitely had late in that game a high ankle sprain mechanism of injury, and he was in some serious pain on that left ankle. He was a classic hip drop tackle that the NFL is clearly just going to find people and not throw flags on. But yeah, so I'll be curious. We'll see. That really when's tomorrow's practice report. If he shows up with any type of not practicing because of an ankle, I think that's a big problem. So we'll see. Hopefully I'm wrong. Maybe it's nothing. Obviously, if he's not on the injury report, then we'll be good to go. But just something I want to throw out there because, he definitely was in some pain and he had all the mechanisms for something that is not fun, especially for a wide receiver to deal with. So we'll have to see there.
All right, let's keep it moving here. We'll get over to the Cincinnati Bengals. They are hosting the Cleveland Browns in this game. Bengals laying 7.5 points in this game with a total of 47 in this game here. Sebastian, what are we looking at for Browns and Bengals?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest news is that, we don't get to see Jameis against this awful defense, which is, I know I was salivating to get his passing props and take his alts and things like that. So it's going to be DTR, and that sucks. Another thing that sucks is Nick Chubb is now out for the season with a broken foot. Now, we talked about this on our show for a little bit, so I'll mention it briefly. He's out for the season, but in 2-3 months he'll be fine. So this is not like the ACL plus injury he dealt with. So when we talk about things, whether you're looking at futures for next season or you're looking at fantasy, best ball, whatever it may be, it's maybe an opportunity where people just think, okay, he just left with an injury, so another season-ending injury. So I don't want to touch him. So just an opportunity to potentially get some value there for next season. Another guy who's likely done for the season, Cincinnati Bengals defensive end Sam Hubbard. He had a reception touchdown last week. He actually injured himself on the reception touchdown, which is unfortunate. But he's probably out for the season. PCLs take at least 6 weeks to, really feel where you can really start get back to playing. I know they haven't officially ended his season because they're still delirious, thinking they have a shot to make the playoffs. So that's why they haven't done that. But yeah, no Sam Hubbard. And again, Jerome Ford's a guy who obviously makes sense. I would have loved it if it was Jameis. But, I mean, let's be honest, I know DCR does things with his legs, but I like Jerome Ford actually receiving. We saw it with Desmond Ridder yesterday. Mm-hmm. Backup quarterbacks need a dump off option.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that Jerome Ford out of the backfield there has an opportunity. It's a bad defense. I mean, the Bengals defense, as good as their offense is, their defense is not good. So
I think DTR would look at the rushing yards as well. He came in last week, I believe, had 16 rushing yards for the Browns in relief there. Yeah. So I think that might be another angle I'll be looking at in this game. But I do like your point about Jerome Ford rushing yards in this. Receiving yards in this game. But could be a rushing and receiving yard game here for Jerome Ford against the Cincinnati Bengals. All right, we'll keep it moving here. Let's get over to the LA Rams and Jets. Not much there. So we'll move it here to the Detroit Lions. They are in Chicago to take on the Bears. Bears catching 6.5 points here at home with a total of 48 in this game here, Sebastian. What are we looking at for Lions and the Bears?
Yeah, Lions, man. They just... It sucks to see because they're a team that played so well and they just can't stay healthy on the defensive side of the ball. And for a while, their offense was, keeping pace and was staying healthy. But we'll start there. David Montgomery ruled out for the season with an MCL injury, likely MCL and some meniscus, because MCL does have the best healing potential out of all the ligaments in the knee. So I was kind of surprised they said season ending with their, Super Bowl hopes. But I think there's something else going on. He had injury, season-ending surgery there. So it's going to be Jahmyr Gibbs. It's going to be Jahmyr Gibbs. It's going to be more Jahmyr Gibbs, right? And he's got a nice matchup against a bad Bears defense. Now, talking about the Lions defense, defensive tackle Lee McNeil out for the year with an ACL. Starting cornerback Carlton Davis, broken jaw, out for at least 6 weeks. They lost another cornerback, Khalil Dorsey, out for the year with a broken tibia and fibula. The other thing I want to mention is, Aiden Hutchinson went on a podcast saying that he's got a chance to return for a Super Bowl. Based on his injury, it happened in October. Typically about 3 to 4 months is the injury time recovery. It's not impossible. There's definitely a chance, but, I wouldn't be banking on that. Obviously, the Lions have to get there first. So just wanted to mention it. The Bears, nothing to report right now. We'll get a little bit clearer of a picture on tomorrow with any injury report stuff, but they are coming off a short week playing on Monday night, so something to note there as far as them with limited rest.
Yeah, I mean, you almost just feel bad for the Lions, man. I mean, they've just been, like you mentioned, they're playing so well offensively. It was a great game last week against the Bills. I know they were playing from behind, from almost wire to wire, if not wire to wire, in that game, but just all the injuries that they've suffered on the defensive side. I know David Montgomery was having a fantastic season as well. Sonic and Knuckles out of that backfield. He was doing really well for me as far as receiving yards. I'm not sure if you saw the note, but I think you did that. His season-long rushing yard number was 775.5, and he finishes with 775 on the season. I mean, talk about a terrible bad beat there. Yeah. But hopefully it's a speedy recovery for David Montgomery, because I really feel like he's found his form here with this Lions team. And also just done a great job with Jahmyr Gibbs in the backfield there. So hopefully it's a speedy recovery for him. All right, Sebastian, before we do continue the conversation here, let me tell everyone about our good old friends over at mybookie.ag. We're brought to you by mybookie.ag. MyBookie has been running on SGPN for years. Check out their new and improved website, great on mobile, plus props for every game, and the live dealer casino as well. They even have a new early cash out option available. Head to mybookie.ag, promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus match up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. That's mybookie.ag, promo code SGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. SGPN's prep partner Rhythm is the #1 AI-powered back sports betting platform that helps 5 bettors of all levels The ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model, copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, or have Rhythm build a model for you. Now you can track props in the Rhythm app, NFL picks, NFL props, college football, college basketball, NBA, Rhythm. Honestly, they have it all. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. All right, let's keep it going here. We'll get over to the next game that we want to get to. We've got the Arizona Cardinals. They are in Carolina to take on the Panthers. Panthers catching 4.5 points in this game here, Sebastian, with a total of 47. What are we looking at for Cardinals and Panthers?
Yeah, just the one to note here is Carolina wide receiver Xavier Legette dealing with a groin injury. Pretty pessimistic here for the team standpoint. They're not expecting him to play, which obviously, gives us a good indication there. So, look for a guy like, I know Jalen Coker is a guy who's kind of been popping off a little bit there. Adam Thielen, just look for some of the other guys to have to get involved as far as to take over for some of those targets there. They're going up against Cardinals defense that is playing a little bit better, but definitely susceptible. Carolina's defense is not very good, as the Dallas Cowgirls showed us last week. So, whether it's shootout potential or they're just having to play from behind, I think some other wide receivers will have to get some work in there. Really the biggest thing from the Dallas game was that this Carolina offensive line is disgustingly bad. Bryce Young was getting hit on every play, and he's not someone that deals with sacks super well. There was one pretty routine tackle where he just kind of let go of the ball and really killed the drive there. So,
all right, let's keep it moving here. Obviously, we just touched on the breaking news there at the quarterback position for the Atlanta Falcons. Michael Penix taking over for Kirk Cousins. Not much as far as injury news in this game. Giants are starting Tim Boyle.
Who knows? It really depends. Drew Lock is technically the starter if he's healthy. DeVito was coming off a concussion, I think. Man, I don't know. It's hard to keep up. I mean, honestly, Tim Boyle, if you're talking about Malik Neighbors, Malik Neighbors is the guy to target in this matchup, in my opinion. This Falcons defense, especially their cornerbacks, Mike Hughes has been getting torched up. So honestly, I kind of hope it's Tim Boyle for my viewing pleasure and for Malik Neighbors' sake, because he is somebody that Tim Boyle really threw him first touchdown pass since September. So I think that's something to note there. We'll see who it is, but whether it's Drew Lock or Tim Boyle, as long as it's not DeVito, I think Neighbors is a good play.
Yeah, I think that if it is Tim Boyle, I would look at Malik Neighbors in this game. And if it is Drew Lock, I would look at his rushing yards again in this game here, because he was doing a pretty well job of at least racking up the rushing yards. All right, we won't dig the knife any deeper here for Sebastian. We'll keep it moving here. We'll get over to the Tennessee Titans. They are in Indy to take on the Colts. Colts are laying 3.5 points in this game with a total of 42.5. And boy, more quarterback news. Maybe not injury related, but you just suck. Sit your ass on the bench.
Yeah, Mr. Mayo boy, Will Levis. I never thought he was going to be a good quarterback. He wasn't good in college, so I don't get it. But Will Levis is benched, and really the only thing of note is Alec Pierce, one of Anthony Richardson's favorite targets, is dealing with a concussion. So we'll have to see where he's at there. But obviously, the Will Levis news. I mean, Mason Rudolph also kind of sucks pretty bad. So we'll see what who does this help on the Tech Titans offense? It's going to be a little tough. So we'll have to see.
All right, let's keep it moving here. We'll get over to the 3 o'clock window or 4 o'clock window on Sunday. The Minnesota Vikings, they are in Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Seahawks catching, 3.5 points in this game with a total of 42.5 here. Sebastian, what are we looking at for Vikings and Hawks?
Yeah, I just want to talk about Geno Smith. He was he was out of the game. He saw Sam Howell, just looked really bad too. But it looks like structurally the knee seems to be okay, which is obviously great news. Optimism that he's going to be able to play against Minnesota. Minnesota's pass defense has been, they've been missing Stephon Gilmore, but even with him in there, teams have been lining him up. So Geno, I think we all forget, I know I do all the time, he's third in the league in passing yards. So Geno, whether it's in garbage time or in, actual real time, I think him and JSN are always a good option as far as taking their yards.
All right, let's keep it going here. We'll get over to the San Francisco 49ers. They are traveling across the country to take on the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins laying a point here at home with a total of 44.5 here, Sebastian. Niners, Dolphins.
Yeah, big one here is Jalen Waddle. We saw him go out of the game early against Houston and dealing with an MCL injury. Again, MCL is best healing potential at all the knee ligaments. So good sign is it seems minor. He was called day to day. This can be a 1 to 2 week injury. So I think that he has a shot to play. Now, I think worth mentioning also is that this San Francisco defense is getting healthier. We saw Dre Greenlaw return and actually looked really good.
Yeah.
So I think Tua could have another rough day here at the office. We'll see. Nick Bosa's getting better. Obviously, no Devondre Campbell. He is opted out of playing football for the time being. So, but Jalen Waddle is the biggest one. We'll see if he's able to play. Malik Washington is a guy who really stepped up in his absence last week, led the team in receiving. So, someone to keep an eye on there, especially if Waddle is out or limited.
All right, let's keep it moving here. We'll get over to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are taking on the Raiders. Raiders are actually laying a point in this game with a total of 39.5 here, Sebastian. What are we looking at for Jags Raiders?
Yeah, Jags Raiders. There we go. Aiden O'Connell, despite being, I think he had to sit out a game because he used an air cast just for a bone bruise, so for pride reasons. But the bastard made us have to watch Desmond Ridder. And as someone who was on Jacoby Myers props, I mean, I had the under, so I felt good there. But geez, man, that was brutal watch. A absolutely brutal watch from Desmond Ridder. But yeah, it looks like O'Connell's likely to play. He's going up against a really bad Jacksonville defense. So I think, I hate to say it again, but I think Jacoby Myers is a play now. He's got a semi-competent quarterback. They had some good chemistry. Sincere McCormick is out for the season with an ankle injury. So, Amir Abdullah was a guy who really showed up in the receiving game. He's kind of been doing that as all game. So we'll see. Alexander Madison is back. So I'm not exactly sure how that split's going to look, but I would imagine Abdullah is going to continue to get some wide receiver work out of the backfield. So I would say Jacoby Myers is probably the guy I'm targeting in this game. But really, I mean, I don't know on the Jacksonville side. I mean, these offenses are just bad. It's kind of tough to really feel great about any of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, I like what you're doing. It's like this is the game, like you're, quote unquote, trying to tank to like improve your draft status. Right now, if the season ended, Vegas or the Raiders would have the number 1 pick, Giants number 2, Pats number 3, and then Jags would be at that 4 spot there. So, we won't waste any more time on this game. Do we have anything for Bucks Cowboys?
No, I got nothing.
All right, so last game of the night will be the Monday Night Football game. The New Orleans Saints, they are traveling to Lambeau Field to take on the Packers. Packers laying 13.5 in this game with a total of 42 here, Sebastian. Saints, Packers.
Yeah, this is the game that could potentially end the Saints, mild chances of a playoff. You got Derek Carr likely out for the season. I told you guys that last time with that fractured hand and concussion. So, they kind of confirmed that he's probably going to be out. Alvin Kamara is the one that originally they said day-to-day with a groin injury, but then they kind of backpedaled a little bit, did Rizzy, so didn't kind of confirm that. So there's a chance that Kamara misses, which I think Kendre Miller is an interesting option. Now he has a much harder matchup than a guy like Jerome Ford, so he'll get some opportunities, I think, which we saw with him out. But there's potential, what's he going to do with them? On the other side, Jordan Love was walking around with a bit of a limp. It looks like it's just a thigh contusion. Nothing too crazy there. So he should be fine. But Quay Walker, week to week with an ankle, so he's got a good chance to miss. Edgerrin Cooper was a guy who really stepped up for them, rookie out of Texas A&M. So, I love my defensive guys. So he's definitely someone to watch for in the tackles market.
Yeah, I saw the Kendre Miller stats over the last 2 weeks where he's looked really good for this Saints team, but I'm not sure if this will be the game for him as far as the Packers, especially where they're catching almost 2 touchdowns in this game are the Saints here. But if they're able to establish any type of run, I think that Kendre Miller definitely will be the guy here for the Saints. And that is the final game on the Week 16 schedule here, Sebastian. Anything else do we want to mention overall for week 16 before we wrap it up here?
No, I mean, we're getting down to the thin of it, right? So, just relish the moments. We get a full slate of football, and soon we'll be in the playoffs, and things will matter that much more. So, yeah, just like as always, I hope you're writing things down. I know I am, as we're saying some things, because as soon as that things open, it's the best time to get on them.
Yep, 100%. A lot of the ones that we did talk about, you want to jump on those numbers early because the market does significantly move once those numbers do drop. So hopefully you guys are able to get to those numbers early and often when it comes to the player prop targets. All right, that's going to wrap it up here for this edition of the NFL Week 16 injury news and updates. Make sure you guys follow Sebastian over on the Twitter machine at the DGen Doc. Make sure you guys check out Sebastian over on their YouTube channel as well. The DGen Docs get a lot more in depth with all the injuries, fantasy advice, and of course, player props as well. Do a fantastic job of breaking everything down when it comes to the injury perspective in the National Football League. All right, we'll be back next week for NFL Week 17. Till then, enjoy the games. Hopefully, we put some more money in your pockets, but always remember to let it ride.